The Seven Kingdoms needs a ruler loved by millions with a powerful army and the right family name.
Good luck finding him.
Who said anything about him?
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
Bamsey's contractor insists the burnt-down male dormitory was insured. The Prime Minister says Cuba's potential impact on tourism should not be ignored. The Immigration Director warns of new penalties, plus Festival Rum Bahamas kicks off tomorrow. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Copy news tonight. One day after Works Minister Philip Davis revealed the male dormitory at Bamsey was not insured when it was severely damaged by fire, the contractor is insisting, as far as he's concerned, the building was insured. Audley Hanna says his lawyer is now looking into the matter. However, he added he does not know if the insurance coverage expired, asserting that construction would have been completed on schedule if certain items had arrived in Andros on time. Bonnie Toot reports.
This is the future site of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Research Institute, which is expected to revolutionize government's approach to farming, not just here in Andros, but throughout the country. Prime Minister Christie and members of his cabinet visited the island this morning for a groundbreaking ceremony and to sign $1.3 million worth of contracts.
That was a happier occasion. While work continues on Bamsey's female dormitory, money spent on the male dorm went up in flames last month when the building was set on fire. Works Minister Philip Davis said yesterday the building was not insured at the time of the January 18th blaze, telling parliamentarians that due to a construction delay and the contractor's failure to pay the annual premium, insurance coverage expired. However, contractor Audley Hanna said today he thought the building was covered.
As far as I'm concerned, the building was insured. Now, I don't know if the insurance collapsed because we did run over because of circumstances beyond our control. Some long lead item what was waiting for, and it took a long time. It just reached about 2 weeks ago in Andros. Otherwise, the building would have been finished on time.
Hanna says his attorney is currently looking into the matter. When asked the name of his insurance company, he told us it is Southern Alliance. But what happens if it turns out the building wasn't insured at the time of the fire?
Well, I guess if it's not insured, I guess that would be the final answer. We gotta find the money.
When asked if he could afford to rebuild the dorm, Hanna said he has excess. Former Minister of Works Nico Grant says it is the responsibility of the contractor to ensure the building is protected until it is officially turned over to government. He dismissed Davis's suggestion that the insurance coverage expired because construction was delayed and the premium was not paid, asserting the Bahamian people should not be forced to pay to rebuild. In fact, opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis asked Davis in the House of Assembly on Wednesday who would cover the cost of reconstruction.
The member must explain to this Parliament who will take the cost of the reconstruction or the completion of the building.
In response, Davis said no decision has been made as yet. Prime Minister Perry Christie has called the Bamsey insurance matter a teachable experience. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonik Toot.
In other news, Immigration Director William Pratt says there will be penalties for Bahamian citizens caught marrying foreigners for convenience. He explained today when the new Immigration Amendment Bill 2015 becomes law, if found guilty, people could be fined $10,000 or spend 5 years in prison. Pratt said landlords should also beware of renting their properties to illegal migrants as they could suffer the same punishment. Kyle Joaquin reports.
It's an age-old problem the Department of Immigration has been fighting for quite some time now. Foreigners marrying Bahamians with the goal of gaining citizenship. For years, immigration officials could do nothing by law to those caught in the act, but Pratt hopes that will all change soon.
We hope that this would send a strong message to the public, particularly Bahamians, who, some of which we hear stories that are being paid to marry certain nationals. And so we want to really crack down on this, and we send a message out strongly to any Bahamian citizen: do not sell your country cheap. Marriage for love is what it should be.
Now, as for what would happen to the foreigner involved in that fraudulent marriage, Pratt says they would be deported. The immigration director says it's not just a particular one or two nationalities that are involved in such marriages, but others that you would never expect. Pratt says for the most part, Bahamian men are the culprits. He said thanks to tips from the public, several people suspected of being involved in such marriages have already been denied citizenship. And based on additional cases coming before them, he said there are more who won't be granted citizenship as well.
A number of Bahamian citizens have called in to alert us on marriages that had already taken place. And so it gives us a head up. And so we were able not to grant status. Based on our further investigation, we found out that it was true. But being able to charge people is what we want to be able to do.
Pratt said it's not until people are taken before the courts for fraudulent marriages that people will learn that it's against the law. In addition, he said justices of the peace should also use some sort of discretion when conducting marital vows.
Justices of the peace and marriage officers who perhaps know, some of them may know or may not know, but it is their integrity to ensure that the persons who they are performing that holy matrimony that ordained by God is done according to how it should be done, not a marriage of convenience or for some gain of status.
Now, it's not just those considering fraudulent marriages that should beware. According to Pratt, this legislation also speaks to those landlords that rent their property to illegal foreign nationals. Pratt said landlords found renting their properties to illegal foreign nationals can face the same penalty of up to $10,000 or spend up to 5 years in prison.
The onus will be on persons, even if they're renting, to ensure that the persons who are renting their homes are legal in the country. So you're talking about harboring of illegal migrants, and the fine is $10,000 or 5 years, or either or both.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Up to 8,000 new jobs will be created by the end of the year, according to Prime Minister Perry Christie, who yesterday hit back at criticisms from the opposition that his confident view of the economy is delusional.
I want to be able to indicate here and now that in our discussions, Mr. Speaker, in this country, it has been acknowledged that we have created over 8,000 jobs. It has been acknowledged. Mr. Speaker, today, I'm going to, Mr. Speaker, give an account that in this year, we know now already that we are going to create as many as 7,500 to 8,000 new operational and construction jobs on things already approved. Mr. Speaker, it is not luck.
In the House of Assembly last week, Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner blasted Christie for painting a cheery picture of the economy. She said Christie is living in the land of make-believe and is abysmally out of touch with the real state of affairs in the country. Responding to Butler Turner's comments in Parliament last night, Christie said the opposition continues to suggest promised jobs are not being realized, despite evidence to the contrary. He outlined various investment prospects in the capital and on the Family Islands that he said will generate thousands of jobs. Christie also noted China State Construction Engineering Corporation, the new owner of the British colonial Hilton, has started work on its $200 million expansion project that will provide 200 new construction jobs and support 500 new permanent jobs on completion.
Does it sound like my head was in the sky? Does it sound like, Mr. Speaker, that I was delusional? If you call me delusional, you obviously have a great familiarity with how people who are delusional operate.
Christie also took note of the 305 jobs that were created as a result of Bamsey. The Prime Minister said the country continues to improve overall growth and performance, and employment continues on an upward trajectory. And pointing to the recent labor force statistics, which showed a decrease in discouraged workers, Christie also said more people are becoming encouraged under this PLP government, unlike the FNM.
There has been a fundamental difference between the culture created by the FNM, where people were so discouraged, maybe because of the recession, maybe because of lack of activity on their part, so discouraged, they became institutionalized, Mr. Speaker, as a high number of discouraged workers. As a result of the PLP coming in power, as a result of our upbeat, optimistic talk about our love for the country, our love for and what we're doing, the people who were discouraged, Mr. Speaker, have now moved to encourage workers, and they therefore have become a statistic, an unemployment statistic. It's a reality that we want to see, Mr. Speaker, because now we know what we have to address.
Cuba's impact on regional economies will be among several topics discussed by Caribbean prime ministers who are in town for the 26th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM. Prime Minister Perry Christie said today the matter should not be ignored but instead embraced. Jasmine Brown has more in this report.
Addressing CARICOM officials today, Prime Minister Christie called Cuba a sister nation and pushed for stronger ties to be forged with the Cuban government. The two-day meeting was officially opened at the Malia Resort. In his opening remarks, Prime Minister Christie, who is also the incumbent CARICOM chairman, touched on Cuba and the recent decision by the United States to partially lift the 54-year-old embargo and restore diplomatic relations with that country.
The simultaneous announcement by President Barack Obama and President Raul Castro on the 17th of December 2014 of the commencement of the normalization of the diplomatic relations and economic ties between the United States and the Republic of Cuba sent welcome reverberations throughout the region and indeed the world.
The Prime Minister said sooner rather than later, CARICOM must come up with a plan to work along with Cuba as a tourism partner. He called for CARICOM nations to band together for a feasibility study.
With a view to strengthening our relations with our sister nation and in fidelity to the principle of South-South cooperation, I reiterate that sooner rather than later, CARICOM should engage in feasibility surveys with a view to developing a multi-destination tourism initiative with Cuba.
During a recent visit to Cuba, Christie said the Bahamas and Cuba should work together on tourism projects, which can be for the mutual benefit of both countries. U.S. President Barack Obama said the United States plans to open an embassy in Cuba and has made changes to the travel laws that restrict traffic between the two countries.
The region celebrated with Cuba when President Obama confirmed that America will cut loose the shackles of its past and seek a better future for the people of Cuba and America. The two countries will open talks aimed at restoring full diplomatic relations, we hope, and the opening of an embassy in Havana for the first time in more than half a century.
Minister of Tourism Obi Wilshcombe and Minister of State for Investments Kailash Roll have both recently said that the Bahamas needs to ramp up the quality of its offerings if it wishes to remain competitive with Cuba. Meantime, Christie also touched on a number of other issues, including youth development, food production, energy reform, and the economy. Christie pointed out that the precarious financial situation at the CARICOM Secretariat also needs urgent address. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Also addressing regional leaders and delegates today, outgoing chairman of CARICOM and Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown. Brown said there are a number of challenges facing the Caribbean, and he insisted nations must work together to meet them head on.
I do not regard the inhabitants of our region as different peoples. We are one people with a shared history, common challenges, common opportunities, and a common destiny. Those challenges cannot be effectively overcome, nor can the opportunities be successfully seized by each of our countries acting alone. While each of our small nations from time to time may enjoy a moment of remarkable triumph, We all know that such moments are rare and are, in any event, temporary. They are not enough to sustain our economic growth domestically, nor are they sufficient to protect us from the onslaught of powers much bigger and stronger than any of us. Only our collective action in defense of our mutual interests will offer resistance to the tides of unfavorable challenges that rush from outside and imperil the livelihoods of our people.
Brown said there needs to be better collaboration, cooperation, and unity in the region. He added that this is especially important when it comes to bargaining with the international community.
Wherever possible, we must establish a Caribbean presence within international organizations to advance Caribbean interests. And we must do so through genuine Caribbean representatives who have fought in the trenches for us and for Caribbean development.
A number of speakers from throughout the Caribbean are expected to address delegates. The two-day conference wraps up tomorrow. You're watching the best in Bahamian news. There's more when MB12 returns.